How's it going, everybody? And welcome to the Barely There podcast. You can follow us on Twitter at Barely There Pod. I'm Duke Coughlin. You can follow me on Twitter at that pod guy Duke. And as always, I'm joined by Lucas Perfetti at Lucas Perfetti 46. We have quite a bit to talk about on this show. It seems like the dead season is finally over. We're getting really close to training camp. I hope everybody got their training camp tickets. I know George McCaskey did a good job of pulling some tickets away from some people, but we'll talk about that maybe a little bit later. But Lucas, how are we feeling, buddy?
Good, man. I got some sun today. I was outside, touched some grass, which was a good feeling. Had the day off, so I went golfing, 18 holes. Shot like shit, but was still outside, sweat a bit. That's why my face looks a little skinnier today. But other than that, man, pretty good, man. I'm pretty pumped up about the Bears. I think Wolf said it right? Like, how many people are going insane for the fact that we traded for N'Keal Harry, who has 300 total yards as his best season, 12,000 likes or whatever on his post, which is great. But I'm actually just as pumped. Like that's kind of how I'm feeling. Like it does show a pulse in the front office. It shows like they are churning over rosters and trying to find what kind of options are there. Still working within Ryan Poles' structure of like not wanting to give up a lot of capital and staying young. I mean, N'Keal Harry's younger than Velus Jones, so or Velus Jones. I got to get that right.
Yeah, you do that. You do have to get that down. But
I
honestly,
just
man,
was hammering that name so hard, Velus, for like 6 days straight before I found out it was Velus. It's hard to go back from that.
yeah, no, honestly, it's kind of like your special thing, man. I'm sure if you called him that at training camp, he'd let you get away with it, but like nobody else would get away with it.
I would hope so, dude. He sees the
Yeah.
post.
But no, man, honestly, you touching grass, that means you're about a couple miles ahead than most of the Twitter sphere. So good for you, Lucas. But yeah, man, this N'Keal Harry trade, in the most Bears fashion ever. Of course, we were all just way overhyping it. Obviously, dude, I had to jump on the trend immediately, talk about how N'Keal Harry is just 100 times better in every way than Christian Watson, just because they got to take those pot shots to the Green Bay Packers. And there was also a Packers writer who wanted to shit on the Bears wide receiver room by including everybody except for Darnell Mooney, which I thought was just personally hilarious. Because it's like, oh, you forgot somebody. You forgot the one guy in that list that could have actually made you look like an idiot.
That has
But,
played fucking NFL football at a high level.
yeah, and he's actually played at a pretty high level against the Green Bay Packers in his very young career. So maybe that was an intentional one. But yeah, with this N'Keal Harry stuff, honestly, like, outside of like, I'm pretty sure he went to Arizona State, right?
Yeah, ASU.
Yeah, I'd say it's outside of like ASU and knowing that he's a former first round pick. A lot of guys aren't really going to know a whole lot unless you really watched in the past few years in Boston or as like a Patriots fan. I actually had a buddy that I have out in Boston reach out to me when I was kind of tweeting about the whole situation. I thought he had a really good perspective. My buddy K Mick 311, big New England Patriots fan, but he's not like one of those like bad Patriots fans. You know what I mean? He's a realistic dude. But he said, and take this as you will. He said, another player for you to get excited about, then disappointed with. I hope I'm wrong. I liked Harry, just couldn't get it going. And I asked, was going to ask your input for it. Do you think quarterback play had anything to do with it? And he said, not entirely, but that was probably impactful. He was hurt and on IR as a rookie, which kills the point of a lot of people saying that Tom Brady was his quarterback and he did nothing with Tom Brady because he never had a chance to even build chemistry.
He was banged up that year. I remember that.
Yeah, exactly. And he said, and struggled to get playing time upon returning. Josh McDaniels and the Pats have always had a notoriously complicated playbook, and Brady needs wide receivers to work a certain way. Then he was in the doghouse. He's got talent, but didn't translate with the Pats, just like players who do succeed with New England who don't elsewhere and then come back. It's weird, man. So overall, I thought, obviously he's going to have his certain biases because it was a former first-round pick who didn't pan out for him. But I thought it was a pretty realistic approach to how he feels about it. It does it, and that's kind of the thing when you play for a guy like Bill Belichick is once you hit that doghouse, it's really hard to dig yourself out of it. And for one reason or another, this young guy who came in injured just could never really get it going with the team. And once you're kind of labeled a certain way, we've kind of seen it even here in Chicago. Once you're labeled a certain way on the team, it's hard for you to really kind of climb out of that. And sometimes you just desperately need a change of scenery. So,
well, and there was murmurs that he wanted out like in the middle of his second year. Like it's not like he was very happy there. Here's the thing. every single college wide receiver that gets drafted in the first round, or really anyone that makes it to the NFL and was a first, second, third round pick, they were a fucking monster in college. So like, yes, N'Keal Harry was an absolute monster in college. There's no doubt about it. I don't think you can go back 3-4 years and give him that same draft value or anything like that just for the way it's panned out. But I think that he has something working for him. And you know, the common argument I hear is how many people leave the Patriots and do well? Like how many people actually that didn't work out for the Patriots leave and they go and do well? Not a lot. A lot of the times if Bill Belichick trades you, it's a year before before your decline starts. Everyone thinks he's crazy when he trades them, and then 2 years later they're not in the fucking NFL. Like we've seen it happen a million times. So that little bit, I understand where the hesitation to get pumped up about him is, but also do me a favor, name me one wide receiver outside of a slot wide receiver that has ever developed on the Patriots. Ever.
No, you really
There's
can't.
zero. There's zero. So
and like the only one you'd be able to go to would be like early 2000s from that first run they made with like say fucking
I know
Corey Brown or something like that.
Yeah,
and that
exactly.
wasn't even like a legit number one. They like and that's just kind of goes to show like how impressive it is what Tom Brady's done throughout his career, because outside of Randy Moss, name me a legit number one that he's had.
Well, they've always worked through their tight ends and slot receivers. So their X receiver is not getting a lot of love. Now, the things I can say that we've seen on film from him in the NFL, he could still high point the ball. He's 6'3". Some people have him listed at 6'4", 230 pounds. Like we've been talking about how the Bears need to go up and get a guy, a physically imposing presence. He is that guy. And he's someone that was not getting a lot of love. Like you said, he was in the doghouse, like wanted out after midway through his year 2, probably because they had him in the slot a lot and fucking blocking for screen passes and stuff like that. And he's going to bring that attribute with him. Like a lot of people, what they were hyping out about George Pickens and those couple, like Harry was doing that in the NFL. So it leads me to believe that not only are we going to fucking pound the rock, but I think we're going to try to use him, because I think the best way to get him at his full value and actually maximize that, because he was supposed to be a second rounder. Patriots like to do that. They fucking took a third round was it D3 guy from Chattanooga or whatever, Cole Strange. Like they don't give a shit what your draft status is. If they like you, they're going to pick you. So him getting picked at the end of the first round, like I think he has the ability to possibly grow into what he could have been with the Bears, because we really do need that physical presence outside the numbers to go up and catch the ball and get those opportunities. And he didn't even get a lot of looks. Like if you go look at his targets, they weren't there. He had Cam Newton for that one season where all they did was fucking run the ball and throw to their tight ends. They signed Hunter Henry and one other guy in the same offseason. Trying to think of who it was. But either way, like they are a tight end and slot receiver team. So the wide receiver production numbers, I don't think are a reflection of what he can be in the NFL. I mean, it's an uphill trend. Like I'm not sitting here being like, he's the answer and this is great, but I do think he will make the team. And I do think he's going to be an asset for the Chicago Bears this year. What's his ceiling? I don't know. Like, we don't know where his confidence is at, but I do think a fresh start's going to be huge for him. I even had, Schleg Daddy, the Jeff D. Schlegel. I'm sure he's accosted you at some fucking point on Twitter.
The guy who's scared to come on this podcast.
Yeah, we'll let him know. I'm going to clip this and make sure he knows. But he was talking about how he should move into tight end. And I'm like, why would you fucking move him into tight end? We've seen him inside. We've seen him as a blocker. Like, we know what that is. Like, he was like, I hate the idea of bottling him up and putting him in that certain role where he was already unhappy somewhere else. Give him a little bit of looks, like, so he goes out there and he has that chip on his shoulder to make sure he's going out and making those blocks for you in the running game. Like, I could see him being that 35 to 40 reception guy, maybe get you 400 yards, like surpass his best season with the Patriots, 450 yards. That's another red zone target, dude. He's a go up and get it guy. So I really like the move. I think it looks a lot better now because you look, it's like, okay, well, now we have Darnell Mooney, Byron Pringle, Bayless Jones, and N'Keal Harry. Before it was like David Moore or Nasimba Webster or someone like that.
You have like Equinemius St. Brown.
Equinemius St. Brown, guys like that. You know what I mean? So I think this has a lot more it makes it feel a lot better to me personally.
Yeah, well, and I think one player that immediately popped in my head when you were talking about guys who leave the Patriots and then, don't do anything. Bears fans should be familiar with the guy, low risk, high reward, that ended up panning out pretty well on a 1-year deal. And Akeem Hicks.
Keem Hicks, you're right. Yeah.
I was gonna say, like, we will sit. Me and you have sat here on this
Good call
podcast
on that. I
before,
forgot.
and
Yeah.
we will fucking praise the hell out of Bill Belichick. But let's not pretend like New England doesn't make mistakes as well. You know what I mean? Bill just maybe he doesn't see something, maybe he just doesn't click with somebody. Josh McDaniels throughout his entire career is kind of a prick to deal with. Like, there's no doubt, there's no denying his results, but like it's never been like people go out and just go out of their way to praise him unless you're like, say, Tom Brady, and Tom Brady praises fucking everybody. But no, I really like the idea of us not really giving up a lot to go get him. He's a physical prospect, you know what I mean? He ran a 4.53 even with that size. Like he can go, you know what I mean? And he was one of the better blocking wide receivers in all of football. And maybe a lot of people think like, oh well, we could just keep Javon Wims or go get Javon Wims back or something like that. And it's like, well, you really have to look at the total package with N'Keal Harry when he's actually highlighted in a game plan. And that just never happened in New England because, like you said, they focus more on tight ends and slot receivers, and they really focus on different receivers out of the backfield and running the football. So like I'm not gonna sit here and act like he's gonna be like the next great thing. Anything I say on Twitter, I'm probably just trolling just to fuck with people, especially when it comes to N'Keal Harry being better than DK Metcalf, you know what I mean? Just like, please don't take me seriously. Like, please, I have to question you if you do on that. But like it's a very low risk, high reward. What, 2024 7th round pick? Like we'll be able to
nothing, dude.
We can recoup that easily if we really wanted to. And he's a guy that has no money on the books next season. It's another body to bring into camp. And you never know. This is a situation where we have so many pieces in the wide receiver room that are just raw. And we have a guy in Luke Getsy that we obviously are very high on when it comes to developing wide receivers. That was kind of the number one thing they talked about when they hired him was the work he did with Devontae Adams, the work he did with Allen Lazard, different receivers like that. So if he can just get one of these guys, whether it's a Byron Pringle, whether it's a N'Keal Harry, whether it's a Equinary St. Brown, whether it's, Velus Jones, although Velus Jones was drafted, so maybe a little bit higher of a prospect there. If he can just make one of those guys work and let Darnell, like, have somebody to get those jump balls, to go over the middle, to kind of set up for Darnell Mooney to slash somebody down the field and kind of play a little bit more of a Steve Smith role than having to go across the field, it can really benefit the Bears offense, especially with our quarterback who just happens to be a dead eye downfield and with a running back room that just looks absolutely stacked right now.
Well, and good comment by a lap here. A change of scenery makes a world's difference. If N'Keal Harry is happier here in Chicago, he could, in parentheses or in quotes, I'm sorry, break out. Now, and that's the thing. Like, what is breakout for him? I think 800 yards would be a fucking breakout season. If he had 800 yards and 4 TDs, that would be incredible value for a 7th round pick. I'm not saying that's what he's going to get, but another thing too, like you think about it, his biggest problem is not being able to separate. He's not a big separator. He's not someone that gets open. He's all about playing that back shoulder throw, catching the ball in traffic, catching the ball with a body on him, stuff like that. So I truly believe like this is a perfect fit for what the Bears have already, right? Like they have Byron Pringle who can separate. They have Velus Jones who can separate. They have Darnell Mooney who's incredible at separating in terms of footwork. You got some burners on the field. They're going to be forced to, push their safety help towards those speed guys. So then you're going to have one-on-ones, and all you're going to and you're talking about a guy that specializes and showed really all of his big plays he made in New England were back shoulder tosses where he just went up and got it. Like if you're getting those one-on-one matchups and it's a 1st and 10, like why not throw the fucking ball up to him? You know what I mean? So I like it. Plus with Justin Fields' ability to fit the ball into those tight windows, hit those back shoulder throws, like really just put it up there for only the receiver to get it. Like I think we could be cooking with gas here.
Yeah, and it's just another big body, dude. It's giving your young quarterback like a safety valve, a big target to throw to. You know what I mean? Like that's the biggest thing I talk about with like Cole Kmet. Like say whatever you want about him. All the naysayers. Obviously, we've been very, very vocal about how we feel about non-Cole Kmet guys, but like it's just giving your quarterback a big target. And a guy like Justin Fields has proven, and it proved with his chemistry with Cole Kmet last year, that if you give me a bigger guy to throw to who can get in front of defenders and go get a football that I toss up for him, he's going to feed that guy. And if N'Keal Harry can find the field, if we can maybe even just find
N'Keal Harry, that was incredible.
Huh?
You called him Keneal Harry.
Dude, all right. So I will admit, I've been fucking up his name since the second we traded for him. And it's crazy because like I've known of him for fucking years. But like I'm completely illiterate. You know, that's all you can really chop it up to.
It's like the Matrix version. Keanu Reeves, Keneal Harry.
Yeah, dude. No, it's like Nikhil Harry, and it shows like a fat Garfield, and then you have Keneal Harry, and it's just the jacked Garfield.
Oh, it's incredible.
But like but if we can use him in like certain packages, you know what I mean, to really utilize his size, whether it is kind of in a red zone package, kind of like what Alap was referring to here, just having big bodies on the field, being able to toss it to a corner and see if he can go in a jump ball. You know, I don't need him to be a yardage monster or anything like that. I think Velus Jones is going to surprise a lot of people if he gets on the field week 1 with how much yardage he can churn up through the slot. And I also think Byron Pringle will also churn up quite a bit of yardage just working through the slot or working through slant routes, out routes, all that type of thing, and just kind of getting the ball in space. Darnell Mooney is obvious, but like we need that red zone type threat, you know. Put him on the opposite side of Cole Kmet almost every time you have him in the red zone, and make safeties have to spread out, you know?
Dude, I mean, but just look at the difference in philosophy from the last era to this era. I mean, Damiere Byrd, Marquise Goodwin, Darnell Mooney. Like, Darnell Mooney's our smallest wide receiver now. You know, Nisimba Webster, Jakeem Grant. These are all guys that are a $180, you know, soaking fucking wet. Like, now you have some big boys. Like, you are going to be able to run the ball, but defensive backs are going to get tired of tackling these guys. You have Pringle, Velus Jones, who are both above 200. Moore, if he makes the team, who's above 200. I guess we should just mention he got arrested. Not a good look for polls, but we're not going to cover it. We're not like I guess, moral police.
You can either refer to us as the Chicago Cowboys or the Dallas Bears. It don't matter.
Yeah, exactly. Oh my God.
I'm sorry. I had to. I'm allowed to fucking shit on Dallas too, so it's cool.
I mean, that's not a good look to have 3 people get arrested that you've signed, but it doesn't look like honestly the only one that looks like they're going to make the team is probably Pringle. Moore maybe on the borderline. I think it'll be a battle for that roster spot between N'Keal Harry and Moore. But like you're looking at all these guys are above 200 and they could still fucking fly. You know what I mean? Like we had a bunch of little guys. Allen Robinson was probably our biggest wide receiver last year. Now I would say we probably have 2 in terms of weight, 2 to 3 that are going to be a little bit more of an enforcer than Allen Robinson. So I really just like the change of philosophy of like we're going to fucking beat you up because I was just tired of playing soft for so long. You know, it's just like it gives me that vibe. Like we are not going to be that push around like bitch ass team. I know the talent's not there, but just the philosophy and change. You know, I like thick receivers. Like I'm a Debo Samuel, AJ Brown kind of guy. Like Steve Smith, I fucking loved him, even though he was short. He was a big guy. I'm a big bicep guy. You know what I mean? Like so I'm very happy that we're getting some thick boys in the fucking wide receiver room.
Well, and I think that's the positive. If you want to spin zone it for a second, that's the positive of getting like unproven guys, like young guys in on 1-year deals kind of to prove it. And we even saw Ryan Pace do things like this pretty often, especially early on in his Chicago Bears tenure, bringing guys in who have a chance to earn a spot in the NFL. You're going to sink or swim. You know what I mean? You're going to find those guys who are going to just overplay their value. And when you see it gives your team a chance to see who's worth being here next year, what positions can be replaced. Because even if a guy plays out of his mind, it makes your better players better. And it shows that like, okay, well, this guy at right guard, he was undrafted, but he's playing out of his fucking gourd. Sure, his upside's not that high, and this is probably the best we'll ever see out of him. But if we go get a right guard now, we can feel confident that if we get a better right guard, that our offense is going to continue to look productive as it is. You know what I mean? Do you kind of understand what I'm saying?
Oh, I know exactly what you're saying. I mean, you need a few underachievers on your or overachievers on your team. Like you need a few of those guys that like no one expected shit from because they're going to bring that work ethic with them every single day. They had to work so hard for years. That's ingrained in them. So that is something that's going to come with them. That is something that the young guys are going to see in training camp and stuff like that. And those are the guys that you can build around culturally. Now you can't build all overachievers. You need some fucking studs. You need some purebred fucking stallions, no doubt about it. But like it looks like this year they're going to find their overachievers. Some of those guys that are going to be building blocks that aren't going to kill your salary cap and stuff like that. So no, in terms of philosophy, I don't hate it. I don't hate what they're doing at all. I would have liked to see if Ryan Poles does something like this, a 7th-round pick or a 6th-round pick, and gets himself like a decent right guard, or a right guard that's just like not working out somewhere else or something like that, I'll feel a lot better about going into this season.
Yeah, no, that's kind of the one that I've been barking up for well over a month now. Is I'm really hoping that Ryan Poles has an idea of somebody he sees that cannot make a roster on another team that can immediately come here and be a huge upgrade. Because that's where your scouting department makes their money. Who is somebody that's on the roster bubble somewhere else. And I've already beaten this point to death, so I'm not going to go too far into it. But like, what's a team that has like a 23-year-old rookie behind like a 27-year-old veteran, whereas the vet's getting paid decent money, or he just got paid decent money in the past year or two, but this 23-year-old looks like he's going to be the higher upside guy and we want to start him now. Well, we're not going to be able to just have this 27-year-old guy on the bench. We're going to need to cut him loose. Unfortunate, the trade market's just not going to be there, especially around training, near the end of training camp to week 1. Those are the guys that you jump on. There are teams that do this all the time. Even the team up north, the Green Bay Packers, they really like doing this. They really like kind of cutting guys about that 28 to 29 level of age, and they like bringing that young guy just to see what they can do. Sometimes it works out, sometimes it doesn't for them, but that doesn't matter. A team's going to make a mistake on a situation like that, and I'm really hoping we're the team to really benefit off of it and sign a guy that wants to come in and either A, earn the second contract, or B, just prove that he still has it.
Yeah.
Hell, dude, look at what we got out of an almost 40-year-old Jason Peters last year. And I'm not saying I want to sign any 40-year-olds, but like,
that was
nobody saw that Jason Peters
that was
the way he did.
That's just because it's like, listen, he's going to get beat on more plays than he did in terms of Jason Peters' situation being older. But like, when you played at that kind of level, you don't completely lose it all. You know what I mean? Especially at a tackle spot. That's why you see some of these tackles go until they're 40 fucking years old. It's pretty common, actually. I would like to look into the lifespans of NFL players, because I feel like running back, wide receiver, skill positions are going to be way shorter than like defensive linemen, offensive linemen, and quarterbacks. I just feel like offensive linemen are those guys. Andrew Whitworth. You can go down the line. I'm not going to name them all. Even Teron Armstead's a little bit older. Trent Williams is like 33, and he just got paid like he was fucking.
I feel like Trent Williams is like probably my number one to play till 40. I think if not 40, like 38, 39. At a pretty good level.
I think he's 33, and he literally just got paid like he was fucking just started to enter his prime. So, we're digressing. Should we get into our dark horses and training camp battles, or what?
Yeah, no, that's fine. We can definitely jump into that. Hey, wherever we go, we go. Yeah. So what I was kind of talking with Lucas before the show was, we kind of the biggest part of the season right now is starting to think of camp battles. I think the fairly obvious one, we just spent some time talking about offensive line. Obviously, there's holes on the offensive line, and there's a lot of young prospects that could potentially take those spots. I think there's also some other really compelling arguments to be made on other different position groups on the roster. Personally, the number one that really stands out to me has to be the slot corner. Obviously Kyler Gordon and Jalen Johnson are like the two pretty much locks to start week 1 on the outside corners. Obviously we've seen Kyler Gordon go inside a little bit during mini camp, but I don't know how much that's going to translate once we get to training camp and really start ramping it up. But I really think what's interesting about this camp battle is you have Tavon Young, who you signed from Baltimore. I'm actually a big Tavon Young guy. He's played the slot very well for a long time in this league. He was kind of really like that vet pickup who knows, like, he's kind of the fallback. Like if the younger guys fall apart in camp, that's a guy you can start week 1 and still feel fairly comfortable about in the slot corner position. He's not going to get beat. He might not make spectacular plays, but I mean, he's a very athletic guy, and he very well could be the best slot corner on this roster just by his experience and his athleticism alone. And then from there, I don't think I've made any secret of it. I'm really high on Thomas Graham. I especially like that Thomas Graham has played in a 4-3 before, and he's played in the slot in a 4-3 before when he was playing at Oregon. So that's something that's going to bode really well. I thought his ball skills looked really impressive last year. I really wouldn't mind seeing what he can do, like in maybe occasional blitzing role. He is a pretty well built kind of guy. He's just on the shorter side of things. And I think the slot corner really benefit him the most. And then kind of the guy that nobody's really talking about, but it's somebody who's probably going to get a fair shake to at least make the roster, which I think is still going to be a little bit up in the air just because he wasn't drafted here, and B, even potentially, work into that fourth corner role, and that's Kindle Vildor. He was somebody who had probably as brutal as it gets of a season last year. Like, I don't know anybody besides like one guy, and you know exactly who I'm talking about, who's really still really bullish on Kindle Vildor. You know what I mean? Like
Oh,
he's an athletic dude, and he showed it in college that he can play cornerback position, and that he's looked good. And even his rookie season, what we saw out of him, he was okay. But like, he has to really go out of his way to impress his coaching staff. They watch the same film that we've watched. They probably know him a little bit more behind closed doors, obviously, now that they've gotten a chance to work with him. But he's a guy that not only might not make a starting role or even a fourth cornerback role, which I think is possible still just because of his raw like athleticism. But if he's not someone that kind of really has a great training camp, I could very well see him be a surprise cut.
yeah. See, I've always liked Vildor in the slot, but it does seem like we have a bit of a slot overload here. And he has some experience outside, and they did have him step into Jalen Johnson's starting spot as the number 2 corner in those mini camps or whatever after because he missed like a week or something like that or missed a practice, so they had him working with the twos.
Well,
And Vildor
he's
was there,
definitely
like.
gonna have like every opportunity in the world.
I don't
Go ahead.
think I don't think so. I think we went from like as a fan base, which we do all the time, we went from like Vildor is amazing to like Vildor is dog shit. Like, and I don't think he's either of those. Like, I think he's somewhere in the middle. And I did think he played a lot better at like in the slot than he did outside personally. He just doesn't have a lot of size to play outside, and receivers are getting bigger and bigger. That's why guys like Jalen Johnson, I feel like, are thriving and stuff like that because these wide receivers like are fucking 6'4", just coming out running 4.3s and shit like that. And then when before when it was like you could be 5'8", 5'9", 5'10", easily play those 6-foot receivers. Like now that's so much of a gap. I feel like that's really just too much of a mismatch. But I think you're kind of right on the Thomas Graham thing. Like I think that's Thomas Graham's spot to lose, to be honest. From everything I've heard in terms of like beat reporters and stuff like that, I do think like Thomas Graham from everything it sounds like he's having the best offseason, and he's been the one that's running with the one. So I really liked what he had to offer. I thought it was bullshit that it took him that long to get on the field, but he even kind of alluded to, like I'll pile on Nagy whenever I get a fucking chance, but he did allude to saying like him missing that year and being out of football, like he had a slow start. He said he had a bad training camp to start last year. So maybe it was just the right time for him to come back. But I was really happy with what he was able to offer in those last few games. So yeah, he played out of position. I truly believe that. Now, here's the thing, like if they're staying young, then maybe they keep Vildor, but I do think Tavon Young is a more solid player that's with proven production from a team that spits out fucking corners like it's nobody's business. And if Thomas Graham's the starter and Tavon Young's only issue is health. Otherwise, like if he stayed healthy, he'd be a starter anywhere else.
He has some incredible ball skills out of the slot too. He is really good at jumping on like a slant route.
He reminds me a lot of Bryce Callahan, just very, very, very undersized and plays like he's fucking 6'2", 240. Like he tries to lay the lumber on people. It's like, bro, just dive at their ankles, man. That's what other little guys do. That's how they stay fucking healthy. But yeah, I do think that that's going to be a good battle. I don't know, man. I think we're pretty short on corner to be cutting Vildor. I guess we'll see, right? Like, I guess we'll see. We didn't draft a lot of, other than Kyler Gordon. It's not like we loaded up on the back end where there would be a ton of competition to kick Vildor off. Like, I think his versatility and his game experience will keep him there as a backup. He could definitely play special teams. So we'll see. Maybe he's one of those guys that bounces from practice squad to 53, like when there's injuries and stuff. Maybe he's not suited up week one, but I think he'll be around. For me personally, man, I mean, wide receiver was probably my biggest thing. I'm wondering what, I guess my dark horse and my competition or my training camp battle kind of flows into the same thing. Like if Robert Quinn isn't here, we don't have an opposite edge. Dominique Robinson was taking reps with the ones. That's my dark horse, who I think is going to have a really, really good training camp and elevate his play. Where even if Robert Quinn is still here, like he's going to be that rotational guy, like what Travis Gibson was for Mac and Quinn. Like I do think like he has that potential, but like, dude, I like going down the line. How many defensive ends do they have that actually rush the passer? Like Quinn Muhammad, he plays defensive end, but like there's not a ton there.
That would be probably like if we were to end up moving from Quinn, that would probably be like my idea of who they would go for would be Muhammad, just because familiarity with the system. And honestly, like if you go back and watch Muhammad's film, like off like setting the edge, he doesn't necessarily get to the quarterback a ton, but he's really good at setting the edge to kind of set up contain so guys don't get outside. He's got a pretty good swim move as well. He's not going to like run anybody over necessarily inside, but he would be more of like a dependable guy, and he's an Eberflus guy. So I think that works a lot in his favor.
I definitely think he's going to be there, especially on like early downs, first and second down. Like I think if Robert Quinn plays there, using him strictly as a Quadin Muhammad, Quadin Muhammad. I called him Quinn Muhammad. I apologize. But
I just like, and listen, I respect your first name, man. I respect you too much to attempt to butcher your first name. So that's why I only refer to him as Muhammad when I'm
going to try to figure it out. Hopefully I can
up.
find maybe one of the reporters says it right or asks him how to say it when he's interviewed. But no, I don't think, I think Quinn will just be a straight up pass rush specialist. Like, I don't think you're going to see him really on rushing downs that much. First and long, second and long. Like, I think he's going to be that pass rush specialist, but we'll see how it goes. Because Travis Gibson's actually pretty good at fucking playing the run too.
Dude, you already know exactly how I feel about Travis Gibson, man. I think 10 sacks minimum out of him, and I think he's going to really show what he can do interior wise, as well with stopping the run. And he's a guy who's gotten bigger. I'm going to be really interested because obviously me and you are both going to training camp at some point during the entire process. I'm really interested to see what Travis Gibson looks like coming into camp, because every year since he's come into the NFL, he's looked bigger every single time he's come in. And like, he just hasn't lost any of that explosiveness that he had at Tulsa. So like there is, the sky is the limit. Like he was one of those really low risk, high reward guys that's looking like he's going to pan out in a very big way.
Yeah, man. That's one thing I think we're going to miss from Ryan Pace is just the ability to find guys late that can contribute right away, you know? Because what was he, a fifth rounder? Maybe even a sixth rounder?
Yeah, he was definitely in the later portion of the draft. He was a day 3 guy.
I mean, that's the thing too. He's a 4.3 end. So him going back to his natural position, like I think we could see a bigger jump than we even are anticipating. You know what I mean? Like I think he can't that 10 sack number does not sound outrageous to me. Dude, he had 7 sacks and like 6 strips last year or something like that, forced fumbles. And he didn't even play as a full-time starter. So I think 10 is actually a pretty safe number for him, especially if Quinn's not going to be there and he's our main guy.
Yeah, no, 100%. And that's really the question that's still kind of floating out there, you know, with the Bears making a trade for the N'Keal Harry, is like, what is the status of Robert Quinn? Like, is he going to report? That's going to be like, I think the biggest story coming into training camp, if he's not already moved at that point, which I don't know. It's the Bears are moving in silence pretty well so far throughout the offseason. There's a lot of moves that we haven't really been able to speculate on because we didn't necessarily see really many of them coming from what they've done. But is Robert Quinn going to report to training camp? You know what I mean? That's a big story right there. And I think that's going to really dictate what those rotations on the outside are going to look like. It's going to really kind of probably show how much we bring a strong side or a weak side linebacker up as well to defend in the run. Because obviously we are going to be, you know, even with talking about the guys we have, not having Robert Quinn and not having a guy to really like even bring in like half of that production is going to be really difficult to try to deal with. So I'm really interested to see how Eberflus, if we go into camp without Robert Quinn or even in week 1 without Robert Quinn, if a trade does go down, how he kind of tries to pick up the slack, you know, if he gets creative with his defensive scheming. And Yeah, it's going to be nice to kind of see what Matt Eberflus has in mind. That's the number one thing, and that's why this is the deadest point of the offseason, is like we get a new head coach, especially on a defensive side of things, and we really just want to start seeing what he's all about and how his variation of the Tampa 2 4-3 defense kind of plays out. You're muted, bud.
I apologize. Another good training camp battle could be who's playing that second DT spot. Is it going to be Kairos Tonga? Is it going to be Blackson? Are they going to try to bump Mario Edwards inside to play tackle? Like, that's kind of like something that's up in the air right now on the Bears depth chart. He is listed. Kairos Tonga is listed as the starter. But that's a spot that's open for grabs. Anyone could take that. Whoever wants to fucking take it can.
I am a big Kairos Tonga guy, and honestly, yeah,
you are. I mean, he's Samoan, right? I like all fucking
dude. It's just the way he plays, dude. You would not be able to tell if you didn't see how big he was, with how fast he plays. It doesn't make sense. Like that's why he stuck out so much at BYU, and that's why I was stunned that he fell as far as he did to us. That's another guy. That's probably
big time Mormon. He might be banging moms too, just like your best friend.
He might be. He might be. You never know, man. And honestly, with the way he plays, dude, he could probably go at least fucking 20 minutes. Like, if we're being just 100% honest here.
Just straight pumping the whole time.
All right. Anyway, I think that's a guy, because I was thinking about this the other day. That's a guy that hopefully Matt Eberflus really looks at and just kind of sinks his fucking teeth into. Like, God, this guy, he just brings it all the time. Because, one thing I always liked about, like, when I was looking up Eberflus was all his coaches talking about, like, this is, like, the most intense player I ever coached. And, like, maybe he eats that up. And I feel like if he does, Kairos Tonga is his guy. Because, like, he always shows up on film, man. He's always going 100% balls to the wall. Angelo Blackson, that's another name that I hadn't really thought of, but that's a guy that honestly showed some pretty good stuff last season. It's all going to be how he converts to the 4-3 and how well he kind of works into what they want from a defensive tackle in the 4-3 defense, especially Matt Eberflus's. And Mario Edwards, that's another name I didn't really kind of put 2 and 2 together about. He's a guy who could possibly, jump a little bit into the outside edge as well.
I could see him playing edge more than tackle, but maybe they move him inside. Who knows?
Or maybe that's another guy that could just flat out not be a fit that we end up seeing get cut at some point.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, because he has shown that he is a pretty good pass rusher when he's healthy, and when he's not, do whatever happens with him off the field. I can't really.
That was a wasted contract, huh? He had a really good season. What was that in 2020? And then as soon as he signed his fucking contract, it was just.
Yeah, just completely fell apart. I mean, it's no lack of talent, but it's the guy just can't stay out of trouble, and that could not, that might not bode well for him moving forward. Which
who knows? It might actually bode well. Like,
yeah, because those guys who've gotten arrested in the offseason, all 3 of them are still under contract with the Chicago Bears, so we don't know.
I mean, let's be real. The if I'm not mistaken, the 3 charges that these guys got were all like alcohol and that kind of like, not like a serious, like Mario Edwards did some bad shit. I think these other 3 guys that got arrested this offseason were like, doing donuts and drinking with a gun visible in the car, like stupid shit that you shouldn't do. But I'm not going to put it on that grade of, of seriousness.
Yeah, no, we're not their employers. You know what I mean? At the end of the day, it's up for interpretation by what Ryan Poles wants to do and what Matt Eberflus wants to do. It's their culture to set. It's not ours. So, I'm rolling with whoever's going to be out there. Fuck Tyreek Hill, though. I mean, if I could just add that, fuck Tyreek Hill. I just want to say that one more time. Fuck Tyreek Hill.
Yeah.
But I just realized I didn't even bring in my my dark horse player. I'll keep it short just because, the Wisconsin Badger in me, of course, has to go with my boy Jack Sanborn. Would love to see him really come into camp just motivated and really make a believer out of everybody. Just from everything you saw from him in college, being essentially the team captain on defense. I know Leo Chanel was kind of given that role a little bit towards the end of his career. But, before Leo Chanel was really a thing on the Wisconsin Badgers, Jack Sanborn was holding it down. He was just that solid, dependable, nobody's breaking a tackle on this guy. Very high motor, very much a leader on and off the field. I believe he was on the Dean's list as well. Very smart guy. Overall, dude, I could sit here and talk positive about Jack Sanborn all day, but that's a guy who I'm telling you, if you haven't heard about him yet, pay attention to him during training camp, because I guarantee he's going to raise some eyebrows, and I really think it's going to be for all the right reasons.
You know what? And as I look into that, because I knew that the Colts defense haven't had like any elite pass rushers. I don't even think they've been that good, to be honest. And you look, their main pass rusher is DeForest Buckner as a DT. So that 3 technique, man, it's a 4-3. That's a huge, huge position. So DeForest Buckner was their leading sack artist with, I guess it was sack artist. Does that work? Sounds weird. Pause. But no, so he had 7 sacks, and then like
Quinn Muhammad going to tickle you with like a little paintbrush after he sacks you?
Quinn Muhammad had 6. Quiddy Payne had 4. Like, these are guys, but they're in. And Quinn Muhammad's here now, so
it wasn't last season, but they did have Justin Houston there for a second.
Yeah, and then they had like Tyquan Lewis. So like they're not. Robert Quinn had more sacks than all of their defensive ends combined last year. So, like, if we're talking about how the defense is going to be, like, just because they don't have this elite name like Khalil Mack, I don't think it's going to be horrible. Sure, it would look a lot fucking better with Mack in there, but Quinn, like, is a true stud 4-3 defensive end pass rusher. So we'll see. I mean, so much of it kind of hinges on what his production is going to be. But even if we do have to roll with Dominique Robinson and Trevis Gibson, or Trevis Gibson and Mario Edwards, like, none of those names popped off the chart to me, and their defense was top 5, was it? Number 1 in takeaways too. So
yeah. Well, I mean, and that kind of alludes to the point I was bringing up earlier, is like, if we do end up trading Robert Quinn, I'm really interested to see how we try to replicate that production. Because kind of like in baseball, like when you get to like cybermetrics and advanced stuff like that, the biggest thing is like, if you lose a top player, it's replacing his production with like 2 or 3 players. You know what I mean? Just by the combination of them throughout a 162 season. How are we going to replicate what Robert Quinn brought with his snap counts and his production, between who we're putting on the field to replace those snap counts and what are they producing? You know what I mean? So like, if we're going to take like a more advanced approach, that would be one that I'd really like to see. And it kind of seems like that's what Eberflus did in Indianapolis, especially up front, dude. It was really a lot of rotation, nothing but fresh bodies on the field. And that's going to be a welcome sight, honestly, because I know for a fact, really since 2018, dude, we saw a lot of Khalil Mack. We saw a lot of like Leonard Floyd. We saw a lot of Akeem Hicks on the field, like at all times. And like, that's awesome as a fan perspective, because it's like, yeah, we always got our guys on there. Those guys, you could be the best athlete in the world, playing every single snap in an NFL game on your side of the football is a fucking tall task, especially when you're getting hit on every single one of them. So rotations, I'm all about them.
Yeah, no, I really like that idea of keeping people fresh. And it's funny too, because it's like, it seemed like Khalil Mack would always be in, but then when we needed him the most, he would be on the sidelines because he was fucking gassed. So no, I'm totally okay with what their defensive line looks like right now. After I feel a lot more confident after looking at what the Colts defensive line actually was. I know I've said it a million times, like, because when you think of it, you're like, who's really on that team other than DeForest Buckner? Like, who's the defensive lineman? There's stud pass rusher. They don't have one. But now when you look at it, it's just guys, like, solid starters. No one crazy, no one terrible. So I think the Bears can make do with what they have across the defensive line.
Yeah, no, for sure. Honestly, if there was one name that I would say watch out for on the Colts in his second season, would be Kwity Paye. I really liked what he did in college.
Yeah. Yeah. They drafted him in what, the second round or first round?
I think Kwity was a first round pick. He was actually fairly early of a pick. He was one of those Michigan pass rushers that have really kind of gotten big in the past few years. Obviously, when you look at some of the people who have been drafted as of lately, with even Aiden Hutchinson as this past season. But yeah, no, I was really high on him in the whole draft process, dude. He's just a mountain of a man, and he's very athletic. And I think he hit some injury issues his first rookie year, but I think that's a guy that's really set to break out in year 2. But we're not an Indianapolis Colts podcast. We're a Chicago Bears podcast. Lucas,
yeah, he was first rounder.
Yeah, I think it's about that time, man. I think we need to tell our fans a little bit about what we have churning in our brains right now.
Definitely. I also would like to make an amendment to the T-shirt and just have it say Kairos Tonga Thunder Fucks across the full front of it. But we can do whatever.
Bro, Kairos, if you're listening by any chance, like, bro, we'll give you half of the fucking profits from that one, buddy.
No doubt.
All right. So so what me and Lucas are thinking is we're gonna give you we're gonna make a deal with you guys. If you guys follow us, you go follow us on Twitter. We're gonna put a tweet out there. We want you to follow the Barely There podcast at Barely There Pod. That's where you can follow us. We're gonna put a tweet out there. We're gonna want you to retweet it, like it, follow us. And if we get 500 followers before week 1, me and Lucas have already been planning just the most like ridiculous t-shirt in the world that would just perfectly encapsulate this podcast and being a Chicago Bears fan. Like, we're looking to set something up on this t-shirt that is something that only Chicago Bears fans would understand. Like, dude,
And we're not even making it for ourselves. You're going to be the only one to possess it.
Yeah, no, this isn't going to be like a limited run. This isn't going to be like a big run. Like, you're going to get the only t-shirt in existence. Like, me and Lucas might make ones for ourselves, but that's as far as it goes. We will never sell this shirt. You will be the only one who ever gets this shirt. And we hope you put it proud. We hope you wear it proudly. But that's if we get to 500 followers. If we get to 750 followers, a second person is going to be picked, and we're going to buy you a nice Bears hat. All right, we'll let you pick out a nice New Era one. Even we're not going to cheap out on the
$35 limit. That's fine. $35. That's could get you pretty much any hat.
Yeah, I mean, you see the hats me and Lucas wear. Like, we're pretty good with hats. So like, we'll be able to get you something. We'll be able to get you a good deal, and you'll really enjoy it. And honestly, if we get to 1,000 followers, and mind you, you have to retweet and like this tweet to be entered
and
into
be following us.
And be following us as well. If you were to send us a screenshot and say that you subscribe to us, it probably won't help you, but it might make us like you a little bit more as well. We'll buy you a jersey straight up. We will let you pick your player. We're going to hook you up. We want to hook up our fans. We want to have a big 2022 season. Hoping to see a lot of you guys at training camp. Like, if you see me and Lucas walking around, dude, don't mind just coming up and just shooting the breeze with us. Like, I mean, don't be weird.
Just run up and punch Duke right in the face.
Like, don't like come up behind Lucas and like sniff his neck or something like that. Like, that is just no bueno. Like, if you want to come up and like tell Lucas how much of a jagoff he is for a certain take, like that, I'm fine with that. And if you want to tell me that, wow, Duke looks like he gained 60 pounds, like I'm up for that too, man. I'm all for a good banter, you know? So, me and Lucas are going to try to be at some football games this year, all that stuff. Like, we just want to connect with the fans, man. That's something that, in our previous endeavors, we didn't really get a great chance to do, especially with COVID, man. COVID really kind of ruined a lot of opportunities like that. But, me and Lucas have a lot of stuff kind of moving on the way. But like I said, 500 followers, we're going to give somebody a custom t-shirt, the greatest thing you'll ever see, I promise. We'll even give you a plus XL size if you need it. It's no problem.
Whatever you need, 2X, 3X, we got you.
Yeah, like, we don't judge, man. We're just two fat guys.
I'm fat as well. Yeah, no.
Yeah, 750. We'll get you a Bears hat, and 1,000. You pick your jersey. A lap down here said if he wins, he wants the Velus Jones jersey. Which, hey, man, I think we can make that happen.
And don't think if you're a friend of the show that like you can skate by without retweeting. Like, we will go like. You will be eliminated, a lap, if you do not fucking retweet this, because this guy shows no love to anyone on Twitter.
Yeah, I was gonna say you need to like it, retweet it.
He'll just comment and let you know when you're a shitbag, but he won't like your tweet ever.
Yeah, he'll send us a DM and tell us how much he loves the tweet, but he won't like it or retweet it. So
no, he's a fuckhead.
Yeah, no, we'll find a whole process to be able to pick winners, but that's before week 1. Once week 1's over, contest is over. We might do something a little bit down the road, but it might not be as good as this, man. Honestly, I think whoever gets the t-shirt's going to fucking love it. If you listen to the show and you know what me and Lucas are all about, we can guarantee we're going to give you something.
It's going to make you laugh for sure.
Yeah. I mean, don't wear it around your parents, but I mean, you're pretty safe everywhere else. It'd be a great bar t-shirt or even a Soldier Field t-shirt. But, yeah, I'd say that's about all I got.
This is next week's the last Wednesday before training camp starts, if I'm not mistaken. Or maybe do we have 2 because training camp starts on a Thursday? We have 2 weeks.
Yeah, and I'm going to be going on, the 29th? That's that Friday?
Yeah, you're going that Friday. I'm going on the 28th. and then I'm going on like August 3rd. I think it's a Wednesday, a random Wednesday. So yeah, if you guys are there, hit me up before. Actually, if you're if you're a friend or even if you just need parking, man. Oh no, I can't give you parking. Never mind. It's not family day. Nope, scratch that. I will give people parking to Soldier Field though if you're a friend of the show, no doubt. When it comes to in season, so just holler at me, DM
Dude,
me,
I'm
Lucas
just
Perfetti 46.
Lucas. I'm so ready for a non-friend of the show to like message you and ask for free parking, and then
I
you leave them on red so they realize that they weren't a friend of the show.
No, I have. I've given free parking to randoms. I have. So
No, Lucas is pretty good about that shit. He's pretty good about anybody going to Soldier Field with that type of thing too, because parking at Soldier Field fucking blows. We all
it's
know it.
miserable. I know how it is. Yeah.
Yeah, but yeah, I'll be there on the 29th. I'll probably be there on the 5th as well.
And I might tag along with one of the days that Duke's going. So we're both there at the same time. Just didn't work out with our schedules.
Yeah, we got to get some good Jagoff content. Maybe we'll do like a little mini vlog or something like that, but I don't want to get banned by the Chicago Bears the first year I go to training camp, because this is actually the first time I ever go. So but yeah, I mean, that's about all I've got. I'm sure I mean, unless Lucas, you have anything else?
Nope, Kyrus Tonga Thunderfucks. That's all I got. That's
dude,
what's come of this episode.
100%, man. Zach Wilson gets leftovers. All right. So this has been the Barely There Pod. You follow us at Barely There Pod. I'm Duke Coughlin. You can follow me on Twitter at that pod guy Duke. I'm joined as always by Lucas Perfetti at Lucas Perfetti 46. We've been barely there, and bear down.
Bear down.